Hey everybody, welcome back to Screwball, a baseball podcast, your home for everything baseball. I'm your host Mike Lepre, here with my co-host Frank White.
Hey, how's it going?
This is episode 116 of Screwball, and we are 1 week away from the All-Star break, so we have reached and passed the official kind of midway point for the season, and the All-Star break itself really does mark kind of a turn of the season into looking forward to the playoffs and kind of looking at, if you already haven't been, looking at your season standings and looking at who could be your statistical leaders, and it's a big time for baseball, and it's consequentially like one of the few days in North America, the big four sports. It's like the only day where there's no sport going on for any of them, which is kind of cool. So we kind of figured make this episode a little bit more All-Star Game centric because it is kind of the big news that's going on next week, and we could look forward to it and offer our predictions next week. So the first piece of news here relating to that I have here is the Home Run Derby field, which Frank and I always talk about as one of our favorite, All-Star Game and surrounding events. So far there's 8 participants. We only have 5 announced so far. So as of right now, we have Pete Alonso, who's the reigning champ. I believe he won two years in a row or something like that. Ronald Acuna Jr., who was in it. I think he was in it, not this last one, the one prior to that. Kyle Schwarber's in it. Juan Soto is back in it. And Albert Pujols is in it this year. This is his 5th home run derby, I believe. He's obviously the surprise participant, considering this is last year in the league, and he's already over 40 years old. But the field is shaping up overall pretty well. I think that any of these guys at this point could win it. Pete Alonso, obviously the reigning champ. Acuna's got stupid power. Schwarber's obviously got stupid power. Juan Soto, a little bit of a surprise last year, beat Ohtani in the home run derby, so he's proven he can do it. And Pujols, even though for his age and maybe his stamina, maybe can't keep up quite with the younger guys, he's been in it quite a few times, and he's still got a home run stroke, so you never know what could happen there. And we're still waiting on some other participants. I know Stanton was rumored, Will Smith was rumored, guys like that, so we still have 3 guys yet to join, but I figured I'd give an update on the 5 that we do have, because I think that they're pretty good choice of participants. I don't really know if I have a favorite yet, to be honest.
Yeah.
So that's the home run derby field. I'll let Frank get into the other piece of news before we get into our kind of the meat of the episode here.
Yeah. Some other piece of news, than the home run derby stuff. Whit Merrifield's streak of consecutive starts comes to an end with 553. That's pretty impressive there. We have Robinson Cano was traded from San Diego to the Braves. And we also have Pujols again, passes Stan Musial for 3rd in the all-time extra base hits list. Pretty much at the top of that list, which is pretty unbelievable to see somebody, start breaking some of these records and get up towards the top of these lists is pretty impressive.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that's pretty much a couple of, my little bit of news there, other than, getting into some of the All-Star stuff.
Yeah, there wasn't a crazy amount of news, so I thought it was kind of we thought it was perfect time to talk about the All-Star Game. So we do have the official participants in the All-Star Game, which is my second piece of news here. So I'm going to go through all the starters. I'm not going to get into every person that's in the All-Star Game because there's a whole slew of pitchers and bench players, and there's already been some additions. So here is the elected starters for the All-Star Game, without noting any changes. So for the American League, your catcher is Alejandro Kirk. First baseman, Vladimir Guerrero. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., obviously. Second base, Jose Altuve. Third base, Rafael Devers. Shortstop, Tim Anderson. Your outfielders are Aaron Judge, who was the leading vote getter in the American League. Mike Trout and Giancarlo Stanton. And the DH is Shohei Ohtani. Your National League starters are catcher Wilson Contreras. First baseman, Paul Goldschmidt. Second base, Jazz Chisholm, who's on the IL. I don't know if there's been any announcement.
He plans on being back for the All-Star Game.
Okay. I wasn't sure if there was an announcement there that I missed. Third base, Manny Machado. Shortstop, Trey Turner. Your 3 outfielders are Ronald Acuna Jr., who was the leading vote getter for the NL. Mookie Betts and Jock Peterson. And then your DH is Bryce Harper, who is he one of the ones he's got to be one of the ones missing it.
Yeah, he's
okay.
Fine, yeah.
So he was replaced, but Bryce Harper was an elected starter for the All-Star Game. And I do have more here of some more names here, but instead of getting into that, I think we should get into kind of what the main topic is, which I'll let Frank kind of introduce like we always do. So those are your starters, and then we're going to get into a little bit deeper dive of who's in it and who's not in the All-Star game.
Yeah. And the topic, obviously, this is kind of how it is every year so far. This, part of the year is, the All-Star rosters, what do we think of them? I think they're relatively good for the most part. At least the starting rosters are pretty solid. But the snubs, who are the guys that we're missing? And that happens every year. It's impossible to not have people get snubbed. I get that. Injuries, replacements, pitchers who can't make it because they pitch late in the week. They get replaced and put other guys in. So that's okay. But there's some guys I really noticed, at least this year, that I really felt were snubbed big time.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a list here of guys just to mention here. I mean, we got guys like Taylor Ward, snubbed out. Ty France is unbelievable because I think he's leading the AL in hits, OPS, something else he was leading.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how he missed it. Kevin Galsman, I know he got hurt, missed a couple starts, but he's been really good.
Mm-hmm.
JD Martinez, I mean, I think he was one of the replacements, but still a snub at first, which is hard to believe with some of these guys. Logan Gilbert,
mm-hmm.
He got, I think, he got 4 runs the other day. He's still a 2.7 ERA, 2.8 ERA. Dylan Cease, I'm not sure. I think he's in the AL Cy Young race. I'm not really sure how he missed out here. The National League, we got guys like Josh Bell, batting over 300. Freddie Freeman, batting over 300. Austin Riley, going nuts of the last 2, ever since the Braves started winning, essentially. Mm-hmm. Brandon Drury could have easily been the Reds' pick. He's been having a great year. Carlos Rodon, I think he was a replacement, but again, a guy in the NL Cy Young race and towards the top of that race. Tommy Edman, he's the leading highest WAR in MLB, or he might be tied at this point because he's been a little bit slumping of late, but he's either first or tied for first in the highest WAR, which is like one of the biggest stats people talk about anymore. Wins above replacements. He is there, right. So I'm just not sure how that one got missed.
You have the leading OPS, the OPS leader in Ty France, who gets snubbed, which is a stat that everyone's been rallying behind, and then you have Tommy Edman, who's basically the leader in WAR, which is another stat people have been kind of getting behind. So I'm not sure exactly what gauge, because the All-Star voting, fans can obviously skew. Like, I think there was that one year in 2015 or 2016, the whole team was the Royals, if you remember that from the voting. So the voting can get skewed, but these guys that are on here, like a Ty France or a Rodon or a Gausman or whoever, they get picked by the managers and the players and stuff. So you would think that those guys would be like, oh, okay, listen, this guy didn't get the votes, but he's leading in OPS, or he's leading in WAR in Tommy Edman's case, or I think Brandon Drury, even someone who you wouldn't expect, I think almost has 60 RBIs at this point in the season.
Yeah,
that's an all-star.
Yeah.
So I'm not understanding where they came up with who's the all-star. It's just like playing favorites. I don't know.
Yeah, and there's even more here. Zach Wheeler, not an all-star.
Mm-hmm.
Austin Nola, or Aaron Nola, I should say,
mm-hmm.
for the Phillies, another all-star. These are some big names. Big names, and these guys are having all-star years. And there's some guys in the teams, some of these teams, like, a lot of these guys deserve to be there. Don't get me wrong, but there's some guys on there you're like, I don't know if he's doing better than this guy. I mean, there's even more. I believe Jorge Lopez was left off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of guys, and I get it. You always have snubs. It's like if you had, 29 playoff teams, and there's 30 teams in it, and the other teams, still snubbed. Right? Oh, we're going to expand the playoffs, right? Because that team got snubbed. You always have snubs.
Mm.
But some of these guys, I mean, batting over 300 in the Cy Young races and MVP races, I mean, breakout years. The best player on their team, Brandon Drury, has been the most consistent player for the Reds,
mm-hmm.
And he's not an all-star. It's like, what are we doing? And sure, they could be replacements, but to miss out, because some of these guys are mostly bench guys, or the backup guys for the starters, so they're not voted in. They're picked essentially by players, reporters, analysts, managers, like people inside baseball for the most part.
Right.
So it's like, how are you missing out on some of these guys?
Yeah.
So, some of these are really, really shocked. Ty France, Edman, Josh Bell,
Dylan Cease,
those guys really, really got me. I'm like, Rodon, I don't understand what happened.
Yeah, I don't, yeah.
The one good thing baseball did, the commissioner put in the exempt thing where he can pick a player who's been a legend, important to the game, at the end of their career, and let him go play the All-Star game. I think that was a pretty good idea.
It is, yeah.
Pujols, obviously, his last year, he's, generational player. He really, one of the best we've ever seen. And Miguel Cabrera this year, that was a little weird because he's still got like another, 2 years before he's done.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess to even out the rosters, it makes sense. So
Probably,
they picked him so he can go and get, So I like that. And also with some of these young guys, and you don't see them all the time, and they're veterans who can be around them for a day or two and kind of help them, and it's really cool
mm-hmm.
story. And then they get celebrated with the greats which they deserve. Especially
Right.
Pujols, 22 years, and he's been a legend and great at everything he's done there for baseball. So I think that's been pretty cool. The commissioner actually hit something right there. But yeah, that's kind of it with the topic. It was just pretty much the All-Star roster and the snubs here, because it's always top topic in this. Before the All-Star game actually comes, it's what the uniforms look like and home run derby participants, and then the snubs.
Yeah, because there's always going to be snubs. You can't not have snubs because there's only so many roster spots, and there's obviously years like this where there's too many good players, and there's injuries and stuff where people sneak in, like you see JD Martinez got in, Carlos Rodon got in, and I forget who replaced essentially Harper's spot for the DH in the NL, but there was a third person that I don't have on here. So you have guys that come and go. Say all of a sudden Jazz Chisholm can't play and they need to replace him. There's another guy on here. Brandon Drury, Austin Riley, realistically, could probably find his way in, replacing a middle infielder. Josh Bell all of a sudden could find his way in. So these guys can find their all-star game here. But it stinks when you have a guy like for instance, Brandon Drury, who really should be making it, and I don't think has an all-star to this point, and who knows if he will.
Yeah.
So not that you need to divvy out like, oh, well, you're not an all-star, so you get it this year. You don't need to do that, but it's like, hey, this guy's deserving it.
But Juan Soto's not an all-star, so why is he there? Right? He's 23 years old. He'll have 30 of them by the time he's done.
Right.
There's no reason he should be an all-star.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, we like him, and he's one of the better players. Not this year, so why is he there?
Yeah, right.
This is about this year. What have you done this year in the first 2-3 months?
Right.
There's guys here that are all-stars. Juan Soto's not one.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like if you make a name for yourself, you could have any year you want. You're still gonna. I know Stanton. Is Giancarlo Stanton's a big name, but to be a starting outfielder is also questionable. So the fact that he's a name, and well, he started hot and has 20 home runs and blah blah blah, has good stats, and is part of at least record wise, the best team in the league. But there's arguments to be made there. So there's some guys here that you could be like, I don't know, but that's just how it goes. Look at Jock Peterson out in the outfield starting in the NL. I think he's like 0 for his last 20 or something like that. So, there's arguments to be made, but I would say the majority, like 95% of this is fine. I don't have a problem with most of it. But to leave out Ty France and these guys, it's like, how did this get missed? By, like you said, like all the players and reporters, like how did they miss that? And they're the ones now complaining.
Yeah.
Like, well, we were with these guys. I'm like, weren't you in charge of that? Like,
at some point, I believe the reserves and stuff like that. Yeah, they're in charge of those. I believe.
Yeah. So what happened there? But yeah, that's the look ahead to the All-Star game. Next week, we'll, like kind of how we do every year, we'll do our predictions for the Home Run Derby, and maybe if what might happen at the All-Star game, if they'll have a moment for Pool House, I'm sure they will. Yeah. Stuff like that. So, but this is kind of what we're looking at right now. Who knows, tomorrow this could go live and all of a sudden 2 other guys drop off the All-Star game for whatever reason. But this is as a recording, Tuesday we're recording, and this will go live tomorrow, Wednesday. So we could even have the full Home Run Derby field tomorrow. We don't know, but that's what we got so far, and I'm excited for it because I really do think baseball does the All-Star game the best as far as with the Home Run Derby and just the surrounding aura behind it. I think that it took a hit with not having the home field advantage decided. I think that was a big difference maker for the All-Star game. But even still, I think it's an exciting, week or few days that they have this year. So with that, that's the end of our topic and the end of the news really here. So let's move on to the wrap-up of the news, the who's doing the best right now. The Yankees still own the best record in the league at 61-25, while the Astros have the second best record in the American League at 56-29. Over in the National League, the Dodgers own the best record at 56-29. The Mets still own the best record at 54-33. And the Yankees still own the best run differential in the league at plus 177, and the Nationals on the worst at minus 142. Mm-hmm. Just a few notes there. I know you're getting hot and cold teams. I know you're going to bring them up, but there's the Mets have been challenged by the Braves lately. Braves are coming on strong, and I just want to give a shout out to the Orioles.
Yeah.
I know you're going to bring them up because we talked about them earlier too, but I mean, Jesus Christ. Yeah. I mean, they're one game as of recording this, they're one game under 500.
Yeah.
Which is unbelievable.
Yeah, 1 under 5, and I believe a game and a half out of the wild card, right?
Yeah, they're right there. They're knocking at the door, and they're in a division now where they're in 5th, and they could find themselves in 3rd fairly easily
Yeah.
in a competitive AL East.
Yeah, you got to
You
give
know?
them their credit. We talked about them last week. They had their first winning month, I think, in 5 years.
Yep.
The longest win streak, I believe. They're at 8 games since 05.
Since 05, yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. What a team that's still not that talented, but they're fighting, and they got fight.
Yeah.
So you got to give it to them. So, some hot teams here I got on the list. I obviously have the Orioles, the Tigers, Astros, Mariners have won, I believe, 8 in a row or so as well.
Mm-hmm.
Braves have cut a lead of 10 games down to 2 games already. In that division, Philly's been hot ever since really the firing, but of late again. And the Dodgers, some cold teams. Blue Jays got swept by, I believe, Baltimore of late, or Mariners it was.
I think so, yeah.
I think they might have got swept by Baltimore before that, or lost 2 or 3 to them.
Yeah.
Cleveland's been cold. The Angels are about the worst team in baseball at this point. Rangers have been cold. Nationals are terrible. Cardinals have been struggling to hit, and the Padres have been.
Yeah, some good teams on there too, and some projected good teams like the Angels. I saw a picture. It kind of hit me, where it was like Trout and Ohtani sitting next to each other. I think Trout was looking at like a tablet for scouting or whatever, and Ohtani was sitting there, and they were like, these guys deserve way better than this. And I was like, yeah, I was like, they really do. I was like, imagine Trout and Ohtani on what the Angels really were supposed to be, on a second place like top wild card team, and they're staring down the barrel of a playoff run, and you have those guys in October. Yeah. I mean, that's exciting to me. I'm a Yankee fan, so I don't, the Angels really don't mean much to me. But as players, I would love to see them in a playoff environment, and to almost see Trout's career, especially at this point, not wasted but waning here. It sucks to watch that. So I that picture, I was like, man, that sucks. Like to see them just kind of.
Oh, you see something today too on baseball. On baseball Twitter, I guess you could say, was you're not paying Ohtani much money this year. Wait till you are paying his money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're the Angels, you do pay him, and then you're just paying Trout. So, I think it was like 40, the $35-40 million more a year that he might be getting, and you're not competing now. So then take that off of your, not salary cap, but your luxury tax. You're really not going to compete. Yeah. So they're, I don't know. I can't get into the Angels again.
They're a mess.
They're an embarrassment. It's terrible for the game for what they do because they have so many good players. I don't know if Trout will ever want to get traded. He just seems like a guy who, he just wants to play and win, but he's not going to cause a stir. But it might be time for him to say something because Ohtani's probably going to end up leaving at this point because he already said he wants to win, and that team still seems to be doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I don't know. It's sad that you have that organization in LA that can't figure it out. It's strange.
At least stay competitive.
Yeah, at least hang around. You're like, oh, we're right in the wild card hunt. We'll figure it out. Whatever. I don't know. I say this every year. There's always just a problem. Yeah. There's like a black cloud over them. It's kind of like how we talked about the Mets. There's just a black cloud that won't go away. I don't know. So we'll see. But from there, let's move on to who's hot and who's not section of the show, where we talk about the hot and cold players of the last week. So the first 2 guys I have here for the hot list were the 2 players of the week, the AL and NL players. So the first one I have here is the AL player of the week is Corey Seager, batted .412 with an 11.18 slugging and a 16.18 OPS, just ridiculous numbers. Finally hitting for that Texas Rangers team that gave him that big contract, so I'm sure they're happy to see that. And then number 2, kind of like we talked about earlier, Austin Riley, batted .440 over the last week with an 8.80 slugging and a 13.61 OPS, doing pretty good over there, obviously. Number 3, I have Juan Soto, batted .500 over the last week with an 8.33 slugging and a 14.42 OPS. Watch out if he gets hot. Not that the Nationals are going anywhere, but, that dude is just a hitting machine when he's finding his swing. Yeah. Number 4, Emmanuel Rivera, batted .429 over the last week with a 6.19 slugging and 11.19 OPS. And number 5, Gleyber Torres, batted .400 over the last week with a 500 slugging and a 9.55 OPS. Gleyber kind of finding his way onto the hot list where he doesn't even really find himself hot or cold list. He's just kind of there. So good to see some different names there. Especially, like I said at the top, Corey Seager, who really, really struggled, him and Marcus Semien for the Rangers after getting those big contracts. So good to see that too.
Yeah, some guys I have here. Some of them, you had like Seager. Riley, been good. Gavin Lux, Matt Carpenter for the Yankees have been red hot. Brandon Drury, Donovan Solano, playing pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Some pitchers that have been great, of late, especially Sandy Alcantara has been unbelievable. 12 straight starts with 7 innings or more. Johnny Cueto has been hot of late. Corbin Burns, Alex Wood pitched very well. Tyrone Walker and Jorge Lopez for Baltimore. There's some pitchers that have been doing pretty well over their last 7 to 10 days.
Yeah, it's good. There's some good names on there. On the cold list, we have number 1, Miguel Cabrera, batting .091 over the last week with a 136 slugging and a 223 OPS. Number 2, Jaron Duran, batted .095 over the last week with a 143 slugging and a 238 OPS. Number 3, Kyle Isbell, batted .095 over last week with an .095 slugging and a 262 OPS. Number 4, Jack Sawinski, 0 average, 0 slugging, and an .087 OPS is 0 for his last 21. Very cold streak. And number 5, Juan Yepez, batted .048 over the last week with an .048 slugging and a 173 OPS. So some very cold weeks from those guys. Obviously the biggest name being Miggy, who I would say hasn't really been a stranger sometimes to the cold list. Later in his career, it's just kind of how it goes. But he also finds himself on the hot list quite a few times because he's just that good of a hitter. But again, he comes with age and on a team like the Tigers right now that is really underperforming, at least to what you and I kind of thought they'd be this year. So it's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah. And some guys I got here, again, I had some of your guys on here. Buxton, been cold. Cesar Hernandez, Eduardo Escobar, Mets fans are very upset with.
Yeah.
Lindor's been cold of late. So, those are some big names and big teams there. Some pitchers, Shane Baz, Nick Pivetta, Mackenzie Gore, and Julio Urias both got lit up on Sunday.
Yeah.
Miguel Castro for the Yankees. He got lit up on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we brought this guy up, Juan Adon. He got sent down finally for the Nationals, but he has 12 losses.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And I believe he's a relief pitcher at this point, and he has over 70 ERA, but he has 12 losses. So he's on the cold list. But that's pretty incredible, yeah, that he just seems to find his way. Not just all the time he just loses. Sometimes it's the runner on base. He just happens to find the loss.
Yeah,
sometimes it's his fault. Sometimes it's not. It just happens. But it's crazy that he can have 12 losses already.
Right,
and be a reliever and just not be out there and it's crazy.
I mean,
he's what 10 losses less, 12 losses less than what some teams have, like the Yankees.
Yeah, right. It's like what's.
That's pretty incredible, right?
There's one guy as a reliever. I don't understand.
Yeah. So
whatever.
Next bit here, I got the injury list. On the bad side of things, there are a couple names, but it's not that long, so at least that's good.
Mm-hmm.
We have Wander Franco, handmade injury. He's out 5 to 8 weeks. That's a big one. Kevin Kiermaier's getting his hip checked out. Yordan Alvarez placed in the IL with his hand. I know it's been bothering him, mostly because the All-Star break's coming up, so he gets the extra rest, so it's been a little more precautionary. Mitch Garver out for the year. James McCann placed in the IL again for the Mets. Marte day-to-day with the Mets. Votto, but he's finally back today. He missed 7 games in a row, but he's back.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Taylor broke his foot, so he's going to be out. And Profar was in the hospital after a concussion. But that's pretty much all I got in the injury, the bad side of things. The good side of things in the injury, Kevin Gausman activated. Nathan Eovaldi supposed to be activated here towards the end of the week. Sales pitching tonight. Jonathan Loizaga, rehab in AAA. Eloy Jimenez activated. Sixto Sanchez is pitching, rehab, so hopefully he's back soon. Jazz Chisholm, again, the update, he plans on playing for the All-Star game. DeGrom, increasing his rehab to AAA, I believe later this week. Harper said he guarantees he's back this year. That's what he said. It was a quote.
Okay.
Freddie Peralta is ahead of schedule for the Brewers. Tatis is coming along. There's not much updates for him, but he's coming along. And Ian Kennedy should be back here shortly for, I believe, the Diamondbacks. So those are some names there, big names, and some names you can see at the trade deadline that will be coming back soon. So something to keep an eye on.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. There's, I think Mitch Garver was the only one there that was like a season long.
Yeah, I believe he's
done for the year.
Surgery on his forearm, hit by pitch or something. So it's going to take him pretty much to the end of the year.
Yeah, I just happened to see it passing, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know he had that much of an injury, or I didn't even know what was going on with him. So that was surprising to see. But for a team, that's not really competing, it's like, oh, just get him healthy. Hopefully, he has a better season next season. They kind of figure it out, get a little competitor next season. So it's like, all right. But it is what it is. The injury list wasn't too bad this week. It was actually one of the better weeks we've had. So it's good to see. So we'll definitely take weeks like that for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely you want to see more of the good news and the bad news. So, but the last thing I got here is a trivia question. Like always, of course, one of the best things we do. We have the Contreras brothers. They both made the All-Star team this year. I know the one for the Braves might have been a little bit more iffy of a make than the one for the Cubs, but nonetheless, the Contreras brothers are the first set of brothers to be in the All-Star game since who? And the answer is 2003. Aaron Boone and Brett Boone both made the All-Star game.
Yuck.
That was the last brothers to make the All-Star game. Some other facts with that brother, combination. Roberto Alomar or Sandy Alomar in 1998 were the last set of brothers to play for the same team in the All-Star game. And Roberto Alomar and Sandy Alomar are the last brothers to start an All-Star game on the same team. And that was in 1992. So, the Alomars hold some records there, but the last set of brothers to make an All-Star team, the same All-Star game, or playing the same All-Star game, was 2003, Aaron Boone and Brett Boone. And Aaron Boone, that was pretty much his only year, 2003. He had a decent year with the Reds there. They got traded to the Yankees, had this big moment at the end of the year. Brett Boone was pretty solid. I think he had, 2 or 3 All-Star games, but it just happened to work out that was the year that they both met, the All-Star game. So, this is the first time we're seeing brothers in the All-Star game since 2003. That's, 20 years.
Yeah, I just can't believe it's the Boones.
We had some brothers, the Molinas, especially Ben Gignotti. I know Jose was, maybe not so much, but Ben Gignotti. I mean, we had the Lou's, right? Moises Lou and those guys.
Corey and Kyle Seager.
Seagers. The Rogers. Nowadays, I mean, so there's been some good ones, too. Not just, there's a lot of other ones, too, but some, really solid players of late, too. Where you go, oh, this guy made an All-Star team. This one, you'd think, oh, maybe somebody, right? But that's pretty much it. That's where it left off. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
Cross-Owens. I know Ron had some early years there, maybe even before Edwin, but Edwin had some years where he was the All-Star. I mean, there's been some brothers here where you go, well, but he was kind of surprised that they didn't do it. But that's it. 2003, the Bruins. That's pretty long time ago, and that's kind of surprising.
It surprised me, to be honest, because the
1 year Aaron made it. It had to be the year Brett made it, and Brett didn't make a bunch either, so it's like it had to just kind of perfect storm.
That's why I was surprised, because it was like, you don't really think they would have made it the same year, because it was just a rare occurrence for them to even be in it. So I didn't even really, they passed my mind, but it was just like they passed it and they were gone. Like I didn't even think. I was like, the Boones, they weren't good enough like together, like in the same year to have a good year like that. But it makes, having a family, a family of a baseball family. Really, I think there were 3 or 4 of them in the majors, right?
The father's was
the father,
I believe the uncle or grandfather even played.
Yeah, so I mean, it's they've been around baseball for generations at this point. So, and who knows if they have kids or grandkids or something that might come up later.
Bob
but
Boone was a very solid catcher. Had some catching records.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say he was a Hall of Famer, but solid, very solid in his day.
Sure. But it's cool that you have brothers like that in the game, and there's father and son duos that we've seen. Ken Griffey and his dad obviously is a big one.
The Bonds.
Yep.
I mean, there's father and son, and you go back a ways too.
Oh yeah.
It's just generational years. Brothers. It happens usually a lot. You got to kind of play this together.
Right.
You don't really have a brother. Well, I'm retired, and the brother's still playing. That's relatively hard to do. Usually, it's they're playing together for 5, 6, 7, 8 years of their career.
Right.
So
and for both of them to be good.
Yeah, at the same time, and then get voted in or somehow make it. It's hard to do.
Yeah, 100%.
That's why we see it took 19 years here, 20 years to get it. So it's impressive, and it is pretty cool piece of history. You get to see just another reason why baseball is so great.
For sure, yeah, definitely. So that's a trivia question, and that's the episode for the most part. We didn't really have too much news to talk about. And we thought that the All-Star Game and the Home Run Derby being as exciting as it is, to give it a little bit of a preview, we'll get a full prediction and more of a hardcore look in our how we think the Home Run Derby will play out and all that stuff next week, which is exciting. So that will give a little bit more next week. So we're not done with the All-Star Game and Home Run Derby stuff. You'll definitely hear more.
And then after that is the deadline.
Yeah, which is I love the deadline because there's just so many moves and so many crazy rumors that you're like, oh, I wish that had happened. Like that'd be crazy. It's almost like you're playing in your mind like your own personal GM, like an MLB The Show or something like that. Like you're trying to piece teams together. It's cool. So I like that stuff. We've already
seen some rumors, and we can get into it down the line. We already seen some rumors and some big rumors, but we're at that excited time where it's the Midsummer Classic, they say, and Home Run Derby, and then the deadline's coming, and it's do or die for teams. So, I mean, it's pretty crazy to think, we're at that time, and baseball's kind of the lone survivor here for the major sports. Yeah,
and it will be until training camp for football, and that's when it really starts.
Preseason, but it's the only sport until September for actual meaningful games.
Yeah, exactly. It's the center of attention, and then playoffs come right at the start of football. So, competing with football is obviously tough for any sport, but to have the playoffs for baseball is, I think, most people are tuning in.
If you got a shot to compete, it's baseball playoffs for baseball, or playoffs for any sport. It's your chance to compete, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So we're right there. We're right in the meat of the season here, where things get crazy, and it only takes one trade to throw the next 10 seasons in whack.
Yeah, and you start looking at really good trades, and there's probably going to be some really bad trades.
Some Pirates trades out there who just wrecked the franchise, and then there's some trades that absolutely change franchises.
Yeah.
And change seasons and change careers and everything. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see more in the coming weeks. It's not going to take long. We only have about, what's that, like 20 days until...
3 weeks until the deadline, I believe,
give
or take.
So we're right there. It's exciting.
We're on the brink of absolute chaos.
That's once the rumor mill gets going and the hot stove gets going, it's insane. Yeah. It's like you said, it's total chaos in baseball. So fun times. But that's all I had for this week. I don't know if you have any final notes or anything before we wrap this up, but that's kind of all I had.
No, just excited for Home Run Derby next week and the All-Star Game and celebrity softball games. Always cool to see some of them people out there. And Futures Game, Dusty Baker and his son be participating in it. So another duo right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just a exciting time. So kind of excited to see some of this and some of the snubs maybe make it in after some replacements and stuff. So this is just a big week here because the week before the All-Star Game, gives teams that chance, a couple days off to go, all right, are we buyers or resellers?
Yeah, right. Like, let's figure it out.
And then the Midsummer Classic, which we really haven't had, it's kind of hit or miss in LA,
Mm-hmm.
So just exciting and a great time for baseball, and it should be cool to kind of tag along here and just be spectator.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're excited for that, and we'll come back next week with our prediction stuff. So with that, I guess we can wrap this one up.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for listening. You can catch this podcast on Apple Podcasts as well as Google Podcasts and Spotify. You can listen on our regularly updated YouTube channel as well as our website, screwball.podbean.com. You can follow me on Twitter at RealMikeLepre. You can follow me on Instagram at Mike Lepre.
And you can follow me on Twitter at FDubs10. And you can follow me on Instagram at FDubs10.
You can follow our official Screwball Twitter at ScrewballPod. You can follow our official Screwball Facebook at ScrewballPod. No E in Screw. And that's it from us, guys. We'll see you next week.
Yep, take care.